The year 1920 dawned upon a world still reeling from the devastation of World War I. The Great War, as it was known, had left millions dead and empires shattered. From this crucible of conflict emerged a world forever changed. 1920 became a pivotal year, a year of both recovery and upheaval. Political boundaries were redrawn, new ideologies took root, and technological advancements reshaped daily life. This year would set the stage for the dynamic and often turbulent decade to come, the Roaring Twenties. The world in 1920 was a complex tapestry of change and continuity. The old world order lay in ruins, and from its ashes, new nations and new ideas rose. The year witnessed the birth of the League of Nations, a bold experiment in international cooperation. Yet it also saw the rise of fascism in Italy, a harbinger of the totalitarian darkness that would soon engulf Europe. In the United States, 1920 was a year of both progress and regression. The ratification of the 19th Amendment granted women the right to vote, a landmark achievement in the long struggle for gender equality. However, the same year saw the implementation of Prohibition, a misguided attempt to legislate morality that would backfire spectacularly. Amidst the political and social upheavals, 1920 also marked a period of rapid technological advancement. The automobile, the radio, and the telephone were transforming daily life, connecting people and ideas in unprecedented ways. The world was shrinking, becoming increasingly interconnected, and 1920 stood as a pivotal year in this transformation. The most significant event of 1920 was undoubtedly the signing of the Treaty of Versailles. This treaty, signed on January 28, officially ended World War I. However, instead of healing the wounds of war, the treaty sowed the seeds for future conflict. The treaty imposed harsh reparations on Germany, blaming it for the war and demanding crippling payments. These reparations crippled the German economy and bred resentment among the German people. The treaty also redrew the map of Europe, creating new nations and altering borders. While this pleased some, it left others feeling cheated and marginalized. The Austro-Hungarian and Ottoman empires were dismantled, creating power vacuums that led to instability. Ethnic minorities found themselves trapped within the borders of newly created nations, leading to future conflicts. In an attempt to prevent future wars, the Treaty of Versailles also established the League of Nations. This international organization was designed to promote cooperation and diplomacy. However, the League of Nations was plagued by weaknesses from the start. It lacked a strong military force, and the United States, a key player in the war, refused to join. The Treaty of Versailles, while ending World War I, failed to address the underlying issues that had led to the conflict. The harsh terms imposed on Germany created resentment and economic hardship. The redrawing of borders satisfied some but alienated others. The League of Nations, while a noble idea, lacked the power to enforce its decisions. The seeds of future conflict were sown in the very treaty that aimed to prevent it. While the world grappled with the aftermath of World War I, a new threat was emerging in Italy: fascism. Benito Mussolini, a former journalist and soldier, capitalized on the economic and social unrest plaguing Italy after the war. He promised to restore order, revive the economy, and restore Italy to its former glory. Mussolini's message resonated with those who felt disillusioned by the war and frustrated by the government's inability to address their concerns. He organized the Fascist Party, which used violence and intimidation to silence opposition. His black-shirted paramilitary forces, known as the Black Shirts, attacked socialists, communists, and anyone who dared to oppose him. In 1922, Mussolini orchestrated the March on Rome, a carefully staged event where thousands of his supporters marched on the capital, demanding power. Fearful of a civil war, King Victor Emmanuel III asked Mussolini to form a government. With this act, Mussolini's rise to power was complete. He had become the Prime Minister of Italy, not through a democratic election, but through intimidation and the threat of violence. Mussolini's rise to power marked the beginning of the fascist movement, an ideology characterized by extreme nationalism, authoritarianism, and a disdain for democracy. Fascism would soon spread beyond Italy's borders, taking root in Germany, Spain, and other countries. The world was witnessing the rise of a new and dangerous political force, one that would have devastating consequences in the years to come. While the world focused on the Treaty of Versailles and the rise of fascism, the Russian Civil War raged on. The Bolsheviks, led by Vladimir Lenin, had seized power in 1917. However, their victory was far from secure. They faced opposition from various groups, including monarchists, socialists, and foreign powers. One of the most significant uprisings against Bolshevik rule was the Tambov Rebellion. This rebellion, which began in 1920, was sparked by peasant opposition to the Bolsheviks' agricultural policies. The Bolsheviks, in an effort to feed the cities and the Red Army, implemented a policy of war communism. This policy involved confiscating grain from the peasantry, often by force. The Tambov peasants, angered by the seizure of their crops, rose up in rebellion. They formed their own army and fought back against the Red Army. The rebellion spread rapidly, engulfing the Tambov region and posing a serious threat to Bolshevik control. The Tambov Rebellion was a brutal affair, marked by atrocities committed by both sides. The Red Army, facing fierce resistance, resorted to brutal tactics to crush the rebellion. They used poison gas, took hostages, and implemented a scorched earth policy, burning villages and crops. The rebellion was eventually crushed in 1921, but it came at a heavy cost. The Tambov Rebellion demonstrated the limitations of Bolshevik power and the deep resentment that their policies had engendered among the peasantry. Section 5. Striving for Freedom, the Irish Home Rule. The year 1920 also witnessed the continuation of the Irish War of Independence. Ireland under British rule for centuries had long sought Home Rule, a form of self-governance within the United Kingdom. However, the Home Rule Bill, passed in 1914, had been suspended due to the outbreak of World War I. Frustrated by the delay and emboldened by the example of other nations seeking independence, Irish Republicans launched the Easter Rising in 1916. The rebellion was swiftly crushed, but it ignited the flames of Irish nationalism and fueled the movement for full independence. In 1919, the Irish War of Independence began in earnest. The Irish Republican Army, a guerrilla force fighting for Irish independence, waged a campaign of sabotage and attacks against British forces. The British responded with harsh reprisals, leading to a cycle of violence that claimed the lives of both combatants and civilians. In an attempt to quell the violence and address the demands for home rule, the British government passed the Government of Ireland Act in 1920. This act partitioned Ireland, creating Northern Ireland and Southern Ireland, each with its own parliament. While this act represented a step towards Irish home rule, it failed to satisfy the aspirations of Irish Republicans who sought full independence for all of Ireland. In 1920, the United States embarked on a bold experiment: Prohibition. The 18th Amendment to the Constitution banned the manufacture, sale, and transport of alcoholic beverages. This era, known as the Prohibition era, was marked by a significant rise in illegal activities, including bootlegging and speakeasies. While the intention was to reduce crime and corruption, the results were often quite the opposite. The year 1920 was also a time of remarkable technological advancements. Cars became more affordable and accessible to the average person, thanks to innovations in mass production. The radio emerged as a powerful medium, connecting people across vast distances with news, music, and entertainment. Telephones started to become more common in households, revolutionizing communication and bringing people closer together, even when they were miles apart. The 1920 Summer Olympics, held in Antwerp, Belgium, were a symbol of resilience and hope after the devastation of World War I. Athletes from around the world came together to compete and celebrate the spirit of unity. Meanwhile, across the globe, political uprisings and movements for independence were gaining momentum. Countries were striving for self-determination and change, reflecting the restless spirit of the times. The events of 1920 left an indelible mark on history. From the cultural shifts brought about by Prohibition to the technological advancements that reshaped daily life, it was a year of profound transformation. The legacy of 1920 continues to influence our world today, reminding us of the enduring impact of those pivotal moments in history.